All right, so you need a checking pen so that you can fix anything you need to fix on your punctuating a positives worksheet. So number 3, our principal, Mrs. Green, presented the award. The appositive is Mrs. Green because it's restating who the principal is. So you should have our principal, comma, Mrs. Green, comma, presented the award. You could cut out that phrase right there, that appositive phrase, and you'd still have a completely fine sentence. Our principal presented the award would make total sense. Number 4, Mrs. Chang, the best teacher I've had. Mrs. Chang, the best teacher I've had yet, deserved to win. This one's kind of harder to figure out where you pause, so you want to read the whole thing first and then figure it out. Mrs. Chang, the best teacher I've had yet, deserved to win. So the part that's restating the appositive phrase, where you pause, is the best teacher I've had yet. If you put it before yet and try it there, Mrs. Chang, the best teacher I've had, I can't even do it. Mrs. Chang, the best teacher I've had, yet deserved to win. If you did that and checked it, you would know it didn't sound right. You need to make sure you go back and reread it and really pause at your commas. Mrs. Chang, the teacher, best teacher I've had yet, deserved to win. All right, number 5, Alicia, who is in our class, read a poem about Mrs. Chang. All right, who's being restated? They're telling more about Alicia, who was in our class. Alicia, who was in our class, read a poem about Mrs. Chang. Number 6, Mrs. Chang's husband, a math teacher, was there. Well, who is Mrs. Chang's husband? He is a math teacher. That appositive phrase is restating or telling us more about who he is. You could cut it out at the commas and still have a sentence. Mrs. Chang's husband was there. Reread it with the commas. Mrs. Chang's husband, a math teacher, was there. Number 7, the rest of us sang a song, You're the Best, for Mrs. Chang. Well, what is the song? It's called You're the Best. You would actually put the comma before the ending quotes. When we learn about quotation marks, we'll learn it's always the punctuation and then the quotes. Number 8, Bobby, who wants to be a musician, wrote the song. Who's Bobby? He's a guy that wants to be a musician. Or maybe a girl. Bobby, who wants to be a musician, wrote the song. Tamara, a computer whiz, made a banner on her computer. Who is Tamara? Tamara is a computer whiz. Tamara, a computer whiz, made a banner on her computer. We could cut that phrase out and still have a perfectly fine sentence. Tamara made a banner on her computer. Number 10, the banner 6 feet long said, Way to go, Mrs. Chang. Well, we have the banner. What is telling more about the banner? That phrase 6 feet long is our appositive phrase. We could cut it out and still have a sentence. Reread it. The banner, 6 feet long, said, Way to go, Mrs. Chang. All right, fix anything you need to fix and turn over your page. So we have commas in a series, which just means you're listing 3 or more things. We already did, let's see, it has many large deserts, some coastal rainforests, and the world's largest coral reef. So we are on line 4. The reef is called the Great Barrier Reef, is 12,000 miles long and is on the northeast coast. All right, well, they're listing facts about the reef. So let's see what they're listing. The reef is called the Great Barrier Reef, is 12,000 miles long, and is on the northeast coast. Next sentence. Australia is surrounded by the Indian Ocean, Coral Sea, and Tasman Sea. Well, what are they doing there? They're listing different oceans and seas that surround Australia. Australia is surrounded by the Indian Ocean, comma, Coral Sea, comma, and Tasman Sea. And again, you would want to reread that. Australia is surrounded by the Indian Ocean, Coral Sea, and Tasman Sea. All right, sentence 7. Kangaroos, kookaburras, and dingoes are just a few of the unusual animals that live in Australia. What are they listing? They are listing animals, unusual animals that live in Australia. The first one is the kangaroo. The second one is the kookaburra. And then they have the dingoes. So we have kangaroos, comma, kookaburras, comma, and dingoes are just a few of the unusual animals that live in Australia. Queensland, Victoria, and New South Wales are 3 of Australia's 6 territories. They are listing the territories. The first territory is Queensland. Second one is Victoria. And we have our conjunction, so we're done. And New South Wales are 3 of Australia's 6 territories. Queensland is the size of California, Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas combined. Well, what are they doing there? They're listing different states that you would combine to make the size of Queensland. Queensland is the size of California, is our first state. Arizona, the next state. New Mexico is the next state. And Texas. So here you actually are listing 1, 2, 3, 4 states. So you're going to have one less, comma, 1, 2, 3. Now let's say you messed up and put one here. You would reread it. Queensland is the size of California, Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas. Does not sound right. New Mexico is the name of the state. All together, New Mexico. So that's where your comma goes. Australia has diamond, gold, copper, and other gems and minerals. Well, what are they listing here? Things that Australia has. Diamonds, comma, gold, comma, copper. It should be hugging the gold, by the way. Comma. I'm having a hard time with these bottom commas for some reason. And other gems and minerals. And we are done. So when you see things that are listed, always remember they're listing 3 things, you will need 2 commas. If they're listing 5 things, you'll need 4. If they're listing 8, you'll need 7. It's always one less, and you're going to separate the items that are listed. That is called commas in a series. All right. Very good. So you need to now get your worksheet from the orange folder on simple and compound and sentence combining. And you need to complete that and keep the paper in your folder.